Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. I'm Gibbs, your host, and we're every Wednesday. And this week, I'm excited to have a part two. So Ryan Hamrick was back on in November 18th, if you're trying to find it. And I'll share the link for part one. We had little technical difficulties. Now I've changed platforms. And so no technical difficulties today. And Ryan has moved. So now he's in a different location. And we might see his dogs back there, but they're beautiful, right? And so we're going to get started. Like Ryan, we had a great in November. We had a really good talk the other day. And so thank you again for being on the show.
Sure. Thanks for having me. And I just reshared the proper link to anybody that is going to the test site or some other thing. So
okay, perfect. And that's awesome. Okay, so we're going to jump in. And if you missed the first one, we went over some things, a little history. But Ryan, can you kind of just give them a little, if they didn't catch the last one, a little bit of your history, and then we'll jump into some new things.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Ryan Hamrick, and I've been doing lettering primarily for the last 5 years or so, a little short of 5 years. But before that, I was in mostly like sales and management and retail. Kind of a combination of those things. I was managing a bunch of wireless, like cell phone stores for the longest period of time, and then before that, it was just a bunch of random stuff, factory jobs, and whatever. I've always kind of considered myself a somewhat creative person, but never really thought too long and hard about making a career out of that at all. And I went to school for graphic design actually for a semester and a half after high school, and then dropped out. So that's about the extent of my formal training, which is like an intro to graphic design class where I was painting shapes and shit. So that was pretty much it. But and then about 5 years ago, I decided out of nowhere kind of that I was going to be a full-time designer, and kind of slowly started teaching myself how to do eventually what it is that I do now, which is mostly hand lettering stuff. And I live in Austin currently. Been here for about 2 years with my family and small stable of animals that, like you said, you may see roaming through the background. I don't know if I have too much peripheral view in the camera here, so we could be good. So, but you might see a cat come across the cat at the top of my desk. So, but yeah, that's kind of a quick nutshell of me. So.
And you really started off at the first thing is you were trying to solve a problem because you were a BlackBerry user and you knew a lot about it, and you thought that the Twitter app for BlackBerry was really kind of sucky.
Right.
And so you really started with UI, UX kind of stuff. And so, but then it kind of turned in. And one of the questions I asked you last time, which I think people want to know, is that is your handwriting beautiful? Like were you just always this beautiful penman? But you said no. So,
and in fact, quite the contrary. I still write in all caps mostly when I'm writing, and it's sloppy and horrible. And sure, if I went really, really slow, I could do okay, but I'm not somebody who could write out a letter in cursive or something and have it even, remotely legible, let alone be anything that you could consider efficient way to write something. So, yeah, I mean, in high school, actually, I think I wrote about this once a long time ago on Medium or maybe on my Tumblr even or something, that I despised writing in cursive in school, and my choice to write in all caps actually started about that time when I was being defiant and refusing to write in cursive for things that I was required to, and probably getting bad grades for it in English class and whatever. But yeah, so I thought it was really dumb and that I would never use it in my life, and it was really ridiculous to require that. So, yeah, so it never has been, nor will it probably ever be pretty. But I'm capable of doing it better if I want to now.
And we're going to get into that. Like, one thing I think is cool is that you're always trying to help somebody with something like the products that you or things that you started. It was really because something was lacking. And I know that they're stopping teaching cursive, and we're going to get into that. That's a later question, but I want to make sure we touch on it because that is something you're passionate about,
yeah,
right?
For sure. I having been there and having been taught it in school, it gave me a real foundation to start from when I decided to start playing with the lettering stuff. Whereas if I hadn't been taught that, I would have been really, really starting from square one. And in a lot of ways I still was, but I had a kind of basic understanding of how to even read it, or how to, to somewhat make something legible. So, and to not have that at all, nobody's going to be able to read my work. They're not being taught it in school anymore. So that has to stop. Yeah.
Right. That's what Brian just said. Cursive will be the spy speak of the older generation.
Right.
They won't, and I used to think that, like, when my sister was learning it, I thought that cursive was this other language, and I was really excited to learn it because it is. As you're reading, you wouldn't be able to read stuff. So that's actually a really good point there.
Well, and I think that the just in general, I've seen this on my son. We talked about this. I think we talked about it maybe in the last part of the interview, but just the fact that actually writing in cursive is it has much more of a rule set as far as like which way to do strokes and everything else than regular manuscript or whatever you want to call it has. So in my son's case, for instance, he is an absolutely terrible handwriter, worse than me. Can't read anything he writes, but the kid can write in cursive fairly well, like just naturally. Not because of any kind of inherent thing, I know, but no, just having more of a set, standard for how to actually form the letters just generally makes him and better at it. So, I think that there's a lot of importance to that too. So anyway, I know you want to get to that later.
I do, but it's fine. But I also think, like, with your son, don't you think he's now more mature? I think he learned it in second grade, right? Mm-hmm. So then they have better motor skills maybe than when they're learning how to print.
Right.
So I don't know, not that they shouldn't learn to write early, but I just feel like they should reteach some of those things, because you were telling me like how he writes his letters is like backwards or something,
right? He writes them all from the bottom up. And we were actually playing with this at dinner the other night. My daughter is 8 and she's in second grade now, and she's not learning cursive at the school that we're at now. They went to different schools for that age, but she can write and print much better than he can. So it's just a matter of her actually following the rules of how to actually, draw those letters, and him just totally disregarding it. So, it's weird. And it's something that I wish they were doing at the school she's at now that they're not. So kind of seeing it both ways. Right.
But at least you can teach it. And I'm sure that because of what you do, they want to connect with you, or they want to be able to read what you do. And so they value it. Maybe he values it more because he sees how much time, and that you're not just rushing through, and that you're taking time to. So maybe his cursive is better. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say they're really good legibility checks, because if they can't read it, then somebody else might not be able to, especially people who aren't learning the forms in the first place. So
yeah, for sure. All right. So last time we talked about, so really today we're going to really dig in. Last time we talked about a little bit of lettering, and a lot of lettering, and we talked about your history, and then we had problems. Mm-hmm. So now we talked a little bit about strategy, but nobody heard it but me and you, I think. So I want to dig into that more. So we talked about how you inserted in the beginning. You were posting on Dribbble, and you didn't know about Dribbble at first, but then you really thought that inserting into conversations online and making connections, so using Twitter maybe or something, and friendships that way. And so one of the questions so that was really important. I want you to talk about that a little bit, but were you asking questions, or were you sharing experiences, or how did it really start?
Yeah. So the way that I approached Dribbble early on was, I felt like a little bit unique at the time. Like, of course I was trying to post my work and stuff, but for a while there at the beginning, I was really, was doing a lot of UI focused stuff, which is, kind of where I started out with design, and wasn't getting a lot of attention, and, for just reasons. I mean, I didn't have a large following at all, obviously at the very beginning. So the things that I were doing weren't particularly noteworthy at all, or remarkable in any way. So, in retrospect, especially, that wasn't, anything surprising. But when I started to get into the lettering and started noticing a lot of that really cool stuff that some of the people that I was following were doing, the way that I approached that was like, okay, I'm not obviously going to sit down at a piece of paper and immediately join this world of doing this beautiful stuff. So while I'm still trying to figure this out and still learn it and everything, I could still be active on here and actually, be making progress towards an eventual potential future in this kind of thing. So I would take any opportunity I saw where somebody would post something that I, had something to say about it in any way, like whether it be feedback or just commenting on something in particular that I liked about that certain piece or whatever. I would jump in there and do that because, I figured at the very least it's going to make this person see my name a few times and, know about me. So that way when I kind of catch up a little bit, hopefully, that'll be, they'll kind of be familiar with me, see my face and recognize that. And maybe on the better side of things, maybe, we'll start interacting more and I can get some help from them if I need it or whatever. And just, being involved and engaged with these people and kind of jumping into these conversations that other people that were doing what I wanted to do were having, just kind of taught me a lot of things. I learned a lot from those interactions, and some of those people are my best friends now. So it was just kind of the beginning of cultivating a relationship with the people that were doing what I wanted to do, so that I could approach them if I had a question or needed some help with something.
And it was last time we also talked about how you I think you wrote somewhere that you had, when you found the design community, you found your people,
right.
People that you fit in with. So did that really start there? Because you really were making these connections, and then from there you were really like, wow, I fit in with this crew.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started out, given that I hadn't been to design school, I hadn't done anything with design ever before, and was in a completely different industry for my entire working life up at that point, I didn't know anybody. So, I had friends that I had made in the mobile industry, between working in the sales of it to working in writing and covering the wireless industry news and stuff for a while. I had friends in those worlds, but none of them translated whatsoever into the design world. So sites like Dribbble and interacting with people on Twitter and stuff were really my only entry into those communities and stuff. So when I started talking to people on Dribbble and everything, I realized, okay, these people think like I do. They are interested in the same things as I am now, and and this is, if I want to form any lasting relationships or get to be known in any way in these circles, then these are the people I need to be talking to. So, and then once I did that, I found out that these guys are super helpful and just really awesome in general, and those were some of the building blocks for most of the relationships I have now. I had a ton of built-in friends in Austin when I moved here 2 years ago, just from relationships that I had formed on Dribbble and on Twitter and Instagram, whatever. And when we moved to Pittsburgh, for instance, I didn't know anybody there for close to a year because I worked from home. I didn't go to an office and actually interact with anybody. And, it was a while before anybody knew me at all in the design world, let alone in my own town even. So, when I moved here, it was a totally different story. I had a bunch of people that I had to get around to meet and talk to and have lunch with and whatever. So, it was really kind of the glue that, kind of helped me, I don't know, just feel like I had a community of people that I could rely on for help and give back to help a little bit as well. So
cool. All right. So you have a really big following. It's like 18,000 and a half or whatever it is, almost 19,000, right? That's on Instagram only. And I'm not sure about your other stuff. I mean, it could have been blown up since then, but that's a really big. And so even on Dribbble so I think this is questions people want to know because they want to know how you did it and how you grew. And I've asked other people this question. And so, was it about posting every day, or was it about, making connections and then asking people to share? So you can kind of take us, because I don't know if this was part you have more of a business background. So was that part of something you thought about? Like, hey, I need to do this, or it just came kind of natural?
Well, I guess with Dribbble specifically, obviously you're not posting much but work and
Right.
or not necessarily work specifically, but design stuff. So I'm not going to post on there about my weekend in Denver with my family, things like that, unless I decided to letter the word Denver, which I totally planned on doing and didn't. So with that, it's a lot more of a curated thing, right? So the approach to a site like that is is definitely a little bit more focused on posting what you're working on, of course, is the kind of the idea, but then also, you kind of get into seeing what works a little bit. Like when I would post things about UI stuff, when I was still kind of doing both, I realized that got way less attention or, feedback or any love than, some of the lettering stuff that I was just starting to play with. So in a way that I think that guided, what I was posting. If I was still working on a lot of UI stuff, maybe I wouldn't make it as much of a point to post about that stuff as I would, some of the sketches I was working on over here. With Instagram.
Wait, let me ask you. Yeah. Let me ask you a question about Dribbble. So Patrick brought this up already, but it still requires an invite. So you're new, and this is one of the platforms that you started in the beginning. So you had these friends, online friends. So did you just ask them like, "Hey, I need an invite," or how did you get your invite?
It's a great question because I didn't have any of these design friends that I could ask, and I think I was a prospect for at least 6 months. I went back and looked a while back when I signed up and actually got an account when I was drafted, and I think it was 6 or 7 months. And when I finally was drafted, it was by somebody I didn't even know. It was actually Ben Bleekamp, I think. He was a designer at Yelp at the time. And I think I was just following him on Twitter and just randomly replied to him saying he had an invite, and he just gave it to me. Totally lucked into it. Didn't impress anybody or have a friend finally that I made or anything. It was just totally random, and it was a while still before anybody knew I was even on there. So yeah, it's still an invite only, and I think that's a good thing still. I think you can get one a lot easier now just because of the fact that there are so many people on there now compared to what there was 4.5 years ago or whatever. But it's just a matter of, again, talking to people. I think I harassed several people on Twitter that were sharing things to Twitter from Dribbble and saying, "Hey, I can't comment there, but really cool. I like the way you did this thing," or whatever. So I would use Twitter as my Dribbble comment section since I couldn't actually interact on there yet. And eventually.
It also it makes a big difference, I think. So you get so people, you can go pro before you can get an invite, and that's you pay $10 or $20 a year, and so it's really pretty affordable. And then, but you're just waiting for an invite. So and if you're posting more, I believe, and not from experience, but if you're posting more, I believe you get more invites coming at you, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I've kind of been slacking on my Dribbble posting lately, so I'm not exactly sure how to correlate invites coming compared to in relation to activity. But I know that definitely the activity relates very much to the amount of followers I'm getting on there and stuff. So whereas if I'm posting a couple times a week on there, the follower increase goes, quite a bit faster and kind of builds really exponentially based on my activity on there. Whereas if I'm not doing it, I may get a couple of week followers or any kind of activity on any of my posts. So,
I'm not sure if it's activity based, if it's post based. So Brian White just said, I posted 30 shots in 1 month and got 5 to 6 invites. And so I do think it has to do with how much you're posting, plus maybe how much you're getting comments or following or whatever.
Sure.
But this has been a big proponent. But anybody out there who wants an invite, you have to have a website or somewhere where your work is. You can't just be like, I want an invite, because one of of the rules is kind of like, hey, we're drafting players. We want people who are good. We don't want just people mediocre. We want people who are really, really good designers or really good illustrators or really good UI, whatever
Right.
it is. And so it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of, you're proud to be part of a group, right?
Yeah.
But they also want people who are using it. And I think the more you use it, like Brian said, the more you use it, and you've done this because you've gotten work from this, right? Work from, there are companies who are just out there searching, companies who search Instagram, companies who search Behance. I think Behance is a good free one. If you can't afford a website, go start Behance. So that if you do start, like your Ben guy, right? Ben, who gave you your thing. Yeah. He had to look at your work somewhere. So that's one thing people have said. And I'm like, oh, well, do you have a website? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, that's the first thing. And they were like, well, I can't afford a website. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe you can do Behance. And I think Behance is a good, I don't know if you use that one also.
I have an account. I'm not super active over there, but yeah, it's just purely a matter of not having the time to, or not. Right. I have the time. I'm going to rephrase that because I could easily do it. I just, I bump it way down on my priority list. It's back burners to infinity. Yeah, I've gotten, I don't know, I won't say that I've gotten work on there. The most activity I've gotten through Behance is early on I hacked, they had a pro site function for a while, which has since turned into, what is it called? It's Adobe's new portfolio project, which I'm pretty sure is still free and basically lets you build a portfolio site, which used to be Behance Pro site. And I liked it, especially since it was included in the Creative Cloud membership, which is why I was using it for my portfolio for a while. So I could post to Behance. It would automatically fill into my portfolio. And that was great. And then there was no responsive templates or anything. So I actually hacked one to make it responsive. I gave you just enough access to get in there and actually tweak the CSS enough to make it work. And the most activity I've ever received from anything I've done with Behance is people asking me how to do that. I've never received any work directly from there that I could tell in any way. But definitely a ton of people very interested in learning how to do that, which an update of theirs broke shortly thereafter. So I moved to Squarespace since then. But yeah, but so, those things, there's free things out there, and I definitely agree that having a portfolio in any way, whether it's like a Tumblr, even for just something to point people to, is huge. And there's a lot of free things out there for sure.
For sure. Okay, so Joseph wants to know, how do you feel about the recent criticism of Dribbble with people saying it promotes a lot of useless designs that's really more intended to get likes from other designers and less about creating quality that speaks to solving the needs of the client?
I think a lot about this. And I wrote a Medium post about this a little over a year ago, almost 2 years ago, I guess now. And it was a bit of a satirical piece about kind of all the complaints that people have about Dribbble and how it's ruining design and whatever. And just kind of tried to neatly round up all of those criticisms and complaints into one fun little post, and try to get the point across of how strongly I disagree with all of that, because Dribbble was kind of like I owed most of my career to it for a long time, and now I don't since I'm not posting there as much, I can't really say that as much, but maybe if I was posting more, I'd be getting more work. I don't know, but especially early on, having that pro account with the hire me link up there was huge, especially when I was starting out with lettering and stuff. That was really the best place to get people to see me, as it relates to being somebody doing that kind of thing that they could actually hire to do stuff with. And as time went on, some of the the work that comes through there may not be the highest quality work, or not highest quality work, but the highest quality inquiries as far as people's budgets are concerned and stuff. There's a lot of junk that comes through there as far as people looking to get something tomorrow for $50 or something. But when I had nothing going on, and had nothing, no one to talk to or ask about this stuff. It was huge for me. So I think that there's a lot of ways that any service or platform can be handled wrong, or be
Sure.
perceived as being a problem to some people, whereas it's amazing for others. And I think that Dribbble is a great platform for people to really come up in a lot of ways and actually get a little notification or a little notoriety and a little attention, where otherwise they would not be able to have an outlet for that, or a way to get that kind of attention or get that kind of awareness built about themselves, which is exactly what it was for me. I think the majority of people that have a problem with it are people who aren't really getting much love on Dribbble, or who are older, maybe traditional designers who see it as a way that all these young people with no formal training are stealing all their work, which what are you gonna do? You can't
Peter's like,
them,
yes, exactly. He's agreeing. So, but I think our field, you can't, if you have an old mentality, and I'm a lot older than you, but if I have an old mentality, like this is the way it's going to be, I hate those young people not doing whatever, to me, it's like, good for you, because I'm glad you're getting on there, and I'm glad that there was a platform that could build you as a designer and as a community. But you had to do a lot of work, Ryan. You couldn't just be like, yeah, I'm going to pick up a pen, I'm going to start drawing stuff. Like right. You had to really work at it, and then those people on Dribbble and on Twitter really helped you form what was wrong, or what you needed to fix or change, and they built you up, and then they gave you a platform for you to be able to sell your work and get your work out there. And I think anybody can take it and run it the other way. But I do think if that's the case, so I haven't ever gotten any work, but I also don't have my hire me button on. Right. I've got too much stuff to do. And I also, what I would want to be hired at is I don't feel like I'm there yet. So I'm not ready to put my stuff out there. But you know what? I have work otherwise. Then you know what? Let other people, I think it's a great platform for people to get work. And I've heard people get work, but you have to post. You have to be out there, and also just like what you said, you have to post consistent stuff. You can't just be like, today's UX, tomorrow's web, tomorrow, I'm going to do branding that's all digital, or it's like you just really stuck after you kind of figured out that the UI stuff wasn't working for you. You went, and that's what people need to do. Old people, any kind of people who Dribbble's not working for. I think they just need to see what is working and how they can use that platform, because it can be a really powerful tool.
For sure. And it's, that's one thing, it's a design focused thing. So it pays a lot to, kind of curate that a little bit more carefully and focus things sometimes. But I mean, if you're into multiple facets of design, then great, post it all. Who gives a shit what anybody else is looking for in your account? That's kind of been the approach that I've taken on other social media platforms.
Right. But you can also kind of curate it. Like this week, I'm going to do this so that people see consistency. Sure. And at least it's like 30 hand lettering and then 1 UI. It's probably not the good way to do it. You need to kind of be strategic in that, so that people see that you can do both things. Because me and Brian White are about the same age, I think. And I mean, we're not like so much older than you, Ryan, but we are older than you. But we also think it's a good idea to have like 3 things that you're good at, because at some point, the lettering stuff, you've got to be able to, if our industry isn't anything, you have to be flexible. You have to be like, hey, well, now I can do this. And designers that have been working for 20 or 40 years are designers that have not just done the same thing over. They've flexed and they bend and they do what is current, Yeah.
Yeah. I say all the time, it's if you're getting comfortable or you're, accepting of some kind of, too accepting rather of some kind of notoriety for a certain thing or a certain style or whatever, then that's like the death of growth. If you get too caught up in getting super positive feedback about one thing and you're just like, all right, cool. You know what? That's going to be my style from now on. And this is me from now on. And, the people get really tired of that really fast, I think. That, or, if they don't, at the very least, you're getting stagnant and you're doing something that is never changing. You're not growing. You're not learning anything new. And that's always something that I've run from as hard as I can. So,
right.
And I think it's made things a lot more interesting for me, for sure. And kept me on my toes a little bit. So,
yeah. So Jeremy says you should always stay on your, step out of your comfort zone. And Joseph says, are you saying that people who criticize dribble is like people who say, get off my damn lawn, you brats? In a
Yes.
way, it's not. In some way, it can be. It's people who are stuck. But
Right.
it's just anybody who's stuck. You could be 22 and stuck because you want to do it this way. But really, it's about having a teachable spirit. And you need that teachable spirit for your whole life.
Sure. Yeah, I like that.
I think.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get on. We got to get past question 4. Not that there's
last
anything.
time, I
I know, but it's good. And Brian Jan, he's like the best. I'm so thankful he's my friend. But he shared when you had said I wrote this. He shared the article. So if you guys want to read that article, it's in the chat. If you just scoot, he says he's a pro Google searcher. He's just pro. All right, so you get on Dribbble, and then you did start posting, and you started then curating, and then really you just started curating lettering. But really, lettering can be curated as well. Are you doing your own fonts? Are you doing, more, 70s kind of scripts, or are you doing more traditional, calligraphy stuff? So do you think that curating your content, even let's say curating your content within lettering, helped you to be focused and get your numbers of viable clients to raise up, I guess?
Well, there's a lot to be said for specialization, and there's a lot to be said for generalization. I think that really the main cause behind my gradual shift into being more lettering focused was just because the more I did it, that was the work that was coming in. If you look back through my Dribbble history, for instance, it's pretty much all lettering, for the first little while there, looking from the most recent stuff. But then you'll see a thing of icons thrown in there because I was still doing some of that stuff. We still have the BlackBerry Twitter app out there, and actually I just was emailing back and forth with my developer partner on that about potentially rekindling some of that for new things and iOS stuff, because I really have no interest in doing anything BlackBerry anymore.
Right.
But so if I were to, I would definitely throw that into Dribbble as I was working on things. And I think that it wasn't so much a matter of me trying to curate towards what was getting more attention. It was just, that's all I was working on, so I don't know. I don't remember what the question was I even started answering there, but
I think so.
Specialization and generalization.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
If you really only want to do a certain kind of work, then absolutely. I think that building a portfolio of that kind of thing and only that kind of thing is only going to help you get closer to only doing that thing, for sure. If you're interested in keeping things, switched up and keeping a variety, then you'll want to have a variety of stuff. And if you want to be known as somebody who is generally skilled at doing a lot of different kinds of things, then maintaining a portfolio, proving your skill in a lot of different things is definitely important.
I think I'm going to say so. I think a lot of different things probably not a great thing, because then you're not really, really good at a couple. Right. But I would say 2 or 3 things, because at some point, look, you right now, you are doing some UI work, you're doing icons, and then you're doing lettering. And so there's some times where there's going to be ebb and flows of things. And you know what? In a way, the UI and the lettering kind of go together, because UI is really about human-centered, right? And so It's the lettering. So it's like you're more in touch. So it's really a good selling point for you.
Sure. Yeah.
I think.
I like it. I might use that.
Use it, for sure. Yeah. But you do know.
Yeah.
Sorry, my husband keeps texting me. I'm pretty sure he knows I do this thing on Wednesdays, but whatever. All right. So how often were you posting on Dribbble?
Oh, for a while there, I was posting quite a bit. I think there still is a monthly limit, and I know there's a daily limit because I decided, you know what, a couple weeks ago, I was like, I'm going to post some of my stuff to Dribble. It's been a little while, and I started just posting stuff, and I realized there's a 5 post a day limit. So, but for a while there, I think I was probably posting to Dribble, especially early on in the lettering times when I was practicing a whole lot and maybe doing a little less work and having a little less on my plate as far as projects go. I was posting more. I had more time to do that kind of stuff. And I was still trying to really use it as a promotional tool in a lot of ways, you know. So at that time, I was probably posting 20, 25 times a month. I was posting a lot, and I was active on there in some way every day, you know, for a long time. But
and also connecting with other people, right? It's not just about like, this is all me. I come in, I do my thing, and then I leave. Right. You actually have to see what other people are doing and comment and be part of that community.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of why I slowed down on posting as of late, because I was finding that a lot of times I was working on something, and then I would say, you know what, let me share this to Dribble, and I would take the time to get it up there, and then as soon as I was done, I'd have to like go run some errands or get back to work or get on a call with a client or something, and then all this feedback and comments and questions and stuff would pile up, and I would not be there to answer any of it for a while. And I was finding that a lot of the time, you know, I was kind of making just enough time to post something and not interact anymore. And I didn't really like that, because that was kind of, you know, what I came there for, and so much of the case early on. So I think I stopped posting because I knew that I wouldn't have time to sit and chat about things as much. So, you know, that was definitely one of the main motivations for me to come there for the entire time for a few years, was to interact as much.
But you also have to schedule that in, because it's like if you're trying to get work and you never do a self promotion, then nobody will know. When you're done with this big project that you're working on, you won't have anything for the next month or the next 3 months. So you really have to continually doing, even if it's just like, hey, at lunch, I'm going to make sure I pop on, but it's something you really do have to plan in, I think. And I'm not good. I don't take, I mean, it's just something I see, not something I do yet. Right. So Andre wants to ask, and Andre's from Portugal. I think it's awesome that he comes all the time. So super thankful. Nice. Great illustrator. So he says, hello, Ryan. Do you post work in progress or completed works, or a mix of both? And how about especially in the beginning, what were you doing?
Well, yeah, in the beginning, it was a lot of work in progress, because I was practicing, I was experimenting with different things, the concepts of this stuff. Like, I didn't know any of the rules at all about how to form letters or how to make things like legible at all. And it was like, I had all the old stuff on Dribble there. There's some really rough stuff there at the beginning. But, you know, there was a lot of in progress stuff, and there was some finished stuff, and there was definitely a mix at the beginning too. But, you know, as time went on and I started working with bigger clients, for instance, a lot of the time there's things you can't really share because of NDAs and whatever. And there's
non-disclosure agreements, just so people know what that is. NDA, yeah.
A lot of companies don't want you to share anything, of course, until they release it. And there's even some things now that I wish I could share that I'm still not sure I can, because, you know, I haven't heard anything about whether it's out there or not. So that happens sometimes too. And so sometimes in those cases, I'll share some in progress stuff, you know, kind of like you know, a sneak shot of something that doesn't really give anything away, but also, like, you know, shows a certain kind of technique or a certain letter form, even, you know, in the center of this thing that I'm particularly proud of, that it just, you know, it's something fun to share. But, you know, I think over time, my Dribble posting, for instance, has seen a kind of a shift from in progress stuff to more like completed stuff. Just because, in part because of not being able to share some of the in progress stuff, but, you know, also in part just of time. And, you know, I wanted to get something out there and share something, but it was already, you know, long since done. And, you know, I posted kind of the final thing, or a final product that was for sale or something like a T-shirt or whatever. Sometimes I'll share the progress of those. Sometimes I'll just post it when it's when it has a link to go buy it, because I found in a lot of cases, if you have a product that you're trying to sell, especially, sometimes teasing it leading up to it works out well, but sometimes, not sharing anything until you have a direct link to go buy it right now is anything before that can be
harmful,
or make people lead to not paying attention. Yeah.
Right. Because they think you're never going to share that link.
Right. And then if you do, it's missed, or it's seen as, more sharing of the thing. And, is it available yet? I don't know. Or, you maybe catch somebody on this day when it's not ready yet, and then you miss them the next day. So, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely always been a mix, more so finished work now, but Instagram is a lot of in process stuff for me in a lot of ways still. So, all
right. So we'll get
so quick and easy to post.
Yeah, it is. So Kevin wants to know about your pencil, your Apple Pencil, and what's your opinion on it for calligraphy. And Ryan and I actually talked about this last week, and you actually make a lot of your own brushes.
Yes. Yeah. It's absolutely phenomenal for this kind of stuff. And there's several tools that are really good for, really diving deep in customization of brushes and stuff. One that I use particularly is called Procreate. It's an app that's been around for several years now, but in combination with the Apple Pencil and its excellent handling of pressure sensitivity and everything, and palm rejection, it's just been, I kind of live in there when I'm on the iPad these days. And I've tried a bunch of different styluses over the years since drawing on iPads was a thing. And nothing has been anywhere close to this one. I've not tried some of the newer stuff from like Adonit and stuff, but this has been far away better than anything that I've ever used before. And it's great, especially when you can combine that with really deep customization on brushes, from pressure, how pressure affects size and transparency and stuff, and all that. You can really fine tune things to get really, really good at representing some of the things that you do on paper, which is the closest that I've come so far to being able to do that.
So Brian wants to ask, do you plan on reselling? Oop, it went too fast. Reselling your brushes, or are you more of a do-it-yourself punk mindset?
It's funny because I've thought about that specifically. Like, I wonder if people think that I'm being stingy with my brushes because I haven't ever made anything available. Because I used to make them in Photoshop too, and I have a few that I still use. And the answer to that is I always have planned to resell them. And we talked about this last week a little bit. I would love to do that. It's just a matter of like taking the time to maybe clean the thing up here or there. Because there's some that I use, and I work around something that I've been meaning to fix or tweak on it. And it's not really in a condition that I would want to put it out there as. And this is just me being picky and a perfectionist about those things. But it's just a matter of like sitting down and being like, all right, I'm getting some brushes up and I'm putting them up for sale. And here's what I need to do to, get these organized in such a way that I am happy with them, and, coming up with some kind of a theme. And honestly, the theme will probably just be lettering brushes, but, it's just a matter of finishing the tweaks on them that I would want to have in place to make them actually like representative of what they're supposed to be or do.
Right.
And then putting them together and uploading them somewhere. I definitely plan to do it for sure.
Okay, well, we had a couple other questions from the audience, and I know we're almost running out of time, so I want to make sure that we get through. So Dan Draper, and I don't know if you know Dan, when he sent me this, I was like, maybe this is an inside joke, but maybe it was the thing Brian was talking about. What pencil is that? Like, that was it. That was all he gave me. So do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah, for sure. This is one of those things. I think a lot of creative people deal with this kind of thing in their respective fields. Photographers, for instance, will have people, asking what camera they use or what lenses they use because they want to be able to go find those things and, suddenly have the skills that you have. And so this is a very common thing that any practicing letterer can relate to, is people asking what pen you're using or what what pencil. And it's one thing to see something that looks cool and say, oh, hey, that's a neat looking pencil. Like, maybe it's got a cool color or something, and you like that color, it's your favorite color, and you want to find that pencil and see where they got it. That's one thing. But on the other hand, it's usually in reference to like using a brush pen that allows you to do thicks and thins and actually write in a calligraphic style. And clearly it's just the pen that they're missing from being able to do that. And so it's kind of become a meme among the lettering community of people asking what pen it is, because what they really are asking is like, that's what I need. How do I get that thing so that I can do that? Right. And really it's like that's when people like me and a few others started doing a lot of lettering with like Crayola washable markers, because it's it's not a tool that you would associate with that necessarily, but it's actually a very awesome tool if you know how to manipulate it in the right ways and stuff. So it's an ongoing joke, and it's something that you should avoid doing if you're an aspiring letterer, because there's so many great things out there to use, and you should definitely experiment with all of them, but they're not really what matter at the end of the day. So some things are right for some projects and wrong for others, and it's just a matter of keeping your toolbox full of a lot of different options and trying them all. So.
I think it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day. I thought, maybe, because people think that, what programs do you use? And I'm like, it's not just really about the programs. Like, you have to know a lot of stuff. Like, I've studied this for years, and I've done it in practice. And so I'm like, was this what it was like when the typewriter came out? They were like, man, I'm going to be a writer. What kind of typewriter do you have? And I'm like, just because you got a keyboard doesn't mean you're a writer, or just because you can send an email. Okay, so back to this. So Kent wants to know, all freelancers wear different hats throughout their design day, and I know you do as well. Mm-hmm. So how do you maintain separation? This kind of can go into the dad designer thing if you want. Yeah.
Well, for me, one thing that's always really helped, and this is something that really only applies to if you're working from home, which I do. I've been fortunate enough to work from home for 5 years now, 5 years in design, but longer, a couple years longer in doing some writing and stuff before that. But I found that having a separate space for me to go to when it's work time, and someplace I can stay away from when it's not work time, has been really helpful. But it's just a matter of working with what your situation is. Like, since I've worked from home, I've kind of been, like you said, like a dad designer. It was kind of one of my earlier jokes, a stay-at-home dad designer, because a lot of the time, especially early on when I didn't have a whole lot of work coming in, I was mostly a stay-at-home dad that was like experimenting with being a designer for a living. And I wasn't exactly making anything close to what could be considered a livable income, especially with a family. So for a long time, it was, things like taking kids to school and picking them up and, running them to where they needed to be and being available when they were sick and couldn't go to school, or at first weren't even in school yet. My daughter was too young to be in school, so she was home with me all day. And so a lot of the decisions I made on what to focus on were, from necessity, So if the schedule dictates that I will only get to work from 9 o'clock until 2 o'clock when I need to go pick up the kids, then that's what it is. In the summer, it's totally different because they're not in school. So do we have summer camp set up where they're going to be have something to do all day? Can we afford that? So it's just kind of depends on the situation. And I think that, there's a lot of ways to work out a work life around your schedule, whatever it may be. For instance, for me, I found out 3 or 4 years ago or so that I could no longer stay up and work late. There was a switch that flipped in me as I started getting a little older, that it was like, okay, anytime I look at my computer screen and sit down at it after maybe 10 o'clock, I just immediately start passing out. So that's not going to work for me anymore. Let's try going to bed early and getting up early. So, I've been doing this for probably at least 3 or 4 years. I've been getting up at like 4 a.m. I get up, I work from 4 to about 6 when everybody else needs to start getting up. And then I stop at that point and get the kids ready, get myself ready, get them off to school, help my wife with whatever she needs to get ready for her work. And she leaves to get the kids out. And then it's back to work time again for, however long until I need to go pick the kids up from school in the afternoon. Or now we have a nanny, awesomely. So, she brings them home and takes care of them, makes sure they get their chores done and stuff in the afternoon. And I can kind of keep working until a typical end of work time. So that's been great. But, that was one of the hacks that I found to, kind of alter my schedule to be able to get a full day's work in when I really didn't have a 9-to-5 situation really being feasible. So, and it's worked great. And, it helps for sure to have something that you really, really look forward to getting up and doing. Whereas, if I was getting up to write writing might entice me to get up to, but if I was getting up that early to go to a sales job or go to a factory and work, which I actually did when I was working at a factory, it was really, really early starts. A lot less easy to get up for something like that. But when I first started doing this stuff and first started this kind of schedule of getting up at 4 every day, ever since then, it's been kind of a situation where my alarm goes off and I jump out of bed and I get the coffee going and stuff, which, helps. But, I'm excited to get into what I'm working on at that time. So it's been good.
So how do you kind of break up your day? Do you do emails? Do you write? Because I know you write a lot, and you've said that writing's really helped you a lot, right?
Yeah, for sure. It depends on what I'm working on, I guess. I try to avoid doing a whole lot of admin stuff or communication in that 4 to 6 period in the morning because my responses to things might be a little snarkier than they might be later in the day, or I'm a more cogent writer, at a later time than at that early time. That's a really good time for me to sketch and to kind of just play around with new ideas, or a lot of my initial exploration on a logo type project or a lettering piece or something will happen at that time because I'm kind of, I don't know, I guess for lack of better words, kind of like in a kind of in between state between like being in a dreamy kind of environment and sleeping into trying to be creative. And it's always been kind of this little magic hour, especially that first like maybe 4:30 to 5:30. Where I kind of am thinking about things differently and I approach ideas a little bit in a little bit different way than I would, when I've been doing a bunch of stuff and being really productive and helping with family and stuff. And I kind of come and sit back down and I'm kind of like, all right, what was I doing? What was I working on? Whereas in the morning I come down here and I'm like, all right, what if I try this? And I'm a little bit less in my head, I guess, for lack of better words, and just kind of more open to trying a little bit goofier things. And, a lot of times those things are the ones that really work out. So I think I definitely try and shift admin and email and stuff to later in the day when I'm kind of like in between work times, because there's a lot of things that come up in the middle of the day. My dogs went out in the backyard and they're whining at me, which I think happened a little bit ago. You might have heard. But and things like that where I have to get up, I got to break my flow, and I got to go do something else. Right. And so when I come back from something like that, that might be a good time to sit down and answer a few emails or something when I'm already broken my stride a little bit, which happens more than I would like to in a given day. But it gives me those opportunities to come back and maybe shift focus for a little bit until I can, get comfortable and get back into a flow of working at a creative thing. So
it's also prioritizing your time and knowing when your best times for creation are, right? And when your times sometimes like after lunch is like, I would love to take a nap. Like that's like not a good time for me to be creative. Like that's a good time for me to do clerical stuff or emails, things like that. But you kind of have to know your body and know what's good for you, right?
Yeah. Emails are a good time for me to take a nap.
Yeah. So I think I answered Kent's questions, or not me, but I asked them and got them answered.
Oh, yeah.
So we still didn't get to 4, but we went to 8. So look, like we cannot get through the the questions.
I talked too much.
No, it was so good. So I would love to have you back on and do more. Sure. Like today we really focused on Dribble, which I think actually was really what people wanted to hear, and people really would like to hear some of this other stuff. But I know you write on Medium, and so somebody asked that earlier, how do you do Medium than just having, or why Medium than just having your own blog? So can you talk about that just a little bit?
Sure. I think, I want to say that I was allowed on Medium before it was fully open, I think. So I don't know why. I don't think I had any real reason to be considered an early
yeah, but you had written professionally.
True. Yeah, I guess. But I mean, none of that stuff was current at all at that time. And I don't know. I got lucky, I guess, or knew the right I don't know. Was early on the list or something of requesting access, something. But at the beginning, a lot of that that new platform smell was still there. There was a lot of people that were very active on there, and you could really get a lot of attention a lot quicker with less activity or whatever, I guess. So a few of those early on posts where I decided I was going to take this idea I've been having about, some content and put it there and see how it does. It was a situation where a couple of those first things really rose to the top of Medium's, most read posts and stuff. And, that's something I could not even come close to doing now because it's such a big thing. And there's so many writers on there with hundreds of thousands of followers that are recommending their stuff. And that stuff is going to float to the top a lot quicker. Whereas at the beginning, I was just as likely to get to the top as anybody else. And so that was really working. And I was actually getting a lot of response from the stuff that I was writing there. So I stuck with that. Whereas I would kind of cross post those things to my blog a lot. I haven't in the last few things just for, lack of time spent on that stuff. But those things even early on didn't get near as much views or whatever on my sites as they would there. So it was just a matter of, kind of playing to what was happening, at the time and kind of feeding the thing that was really working for me at that moment. So now I think I have 2,000 or so followers or something on there. And I don't even write on there anymore. So I should probably utilize that a little bit better, but yeah.
But it's about utilizing, getting early on new platforms as well as just trying new things, right? And it's just a marketing
like Instagram, for instance, I've been using it since it first came out, more often in recent years than at the beginning, but and for very different things. I was posting a lot of food and maybe some selfies and stuff at the beginning, but it's just, I think that the growth that I had on that platform, for instance, is in a lot of ways just, due to me being there for the whole time and, just jumping in early and, getting active and not giving up on it right away when it didn't immediately give me any results, so.
Right. And it's just being consistent and being there. And just like we were talking about with Dribble, you just have to comment. You can't just go in and do your own thing and then leave. It's also about setting up your profile, right? Using a link that's going to be beneficial for people that, people will be able to click back. Those are just basic kind of Instagram things, but some people don't do them very well. So, I always added more. I added even more anyway. Bummed that we didn't get through these. How far out do you plan your business strategy?
As far as I can reach. But really, it is in a lot of ways very just kind of spur of the moment. I think I mentioned leading up to our last talk that I was going to be talking about my no strategy business strategy because it's really just been kind of, I don't have a plan. I didn't go to school for for design. I don't know the path that you're supposed to take. And so everything that I've done has just been kind of, the best way that I saw fit at the time to do this or to do that, or to market myself, or to generate some awareness of myself. It was all things based on the past that I had, which was in sales and, building rapport with customers rather than, making friends in an industry or, building a portfolio. Like I didn't build a sales portfolio, you know what I mean? It was a lot different.
Right.
So it was just kind of seeing it for what it was and then just doing what I knew how to do to it.
So just so you know, we don't teach that. I mean, I don't teach. I mean, I teach a little bit of business stuff, but like somebody just said, we're learning. Chelsea, we're just learning from each other and seeing what works. And those are why I'm asking those questions, because unfortunately things change. And so there can't be a textbook necessarily about it. There can be like, hey, be nice and talk to people. But when I was in school, when I was just coming out of school in 96, so 20 years ago, it was very similar. The design jobs you wanted weren't advertised for. You had to know somebody because it's incestuous. Not that but we like to know who we're going to be working with. And we want to make sure that because you're working, you're not just like coming in, looking at your computer, typing on your keyboard, and then you clock out. It's like you have to know each other, and you have to be able to work with each other.
Yeah,
so
I mean, there was a long time, and even still, occasionally somebody will talk about a certain designer or like some design legend or something, and I couldn't tell you a thing that they did because I didn't study them in school. I didn't, I didn't intern for anybody and like learn about who the players were or anything. I just literally am kind of just randomly picking up little bits and pieces of information as I go. And I think that that's more what I meant as far as like, coming up in the traditional path as far as like, you go to school, you work for a certain professor at a school who, kind of is somebody, and then you intern for a shop that kind of, helps you, get your name out into the community as being somebody who's coming up and doing interesting things. And, it's just, I don't think any of that stuff matters as much anymore.
It doesn't. I mean, I think
just in the last few years.
Yeah, but I think that you've had such an impact on, lettering, on design, and I think that that's really significant. So, but I also think Mary Kate McDevitt, she said, if you really want to be a rock star, then you're in the wrong field, because nobody outside of design is ever going to know who you are. It's kind of like a famous dentist, like nobody knows who's the famous dentist. So we will know who you are, but somebody may not. But like one of my professors wrote the book on history of graphic design, the very first one. And he said to me, he was like, "You've heard of me?" And I'm like, yeah, but I also think, it's good to have that kind of mentality. Humility is really important because you know what? There are a lot of people who have never heard. And when I was in grad school, Ryan, they would be like, okay, so blah, 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 this designer, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know who the hell they're talking about. And I'm like, I felt like an idiot. And so somebody was talking about the fraud syndrome earlier. And I, of course, just raised my hand because I was paying for this. I wanted to know who it was. And I was like, they were like, does anybody not know who that is? And I was like, I guess it's just me. So could you tell me? But in a way, I was glad because my professors were like, we knew nobody else knew that. They just didn't want to raise their hand. And then you kept raising your hand. So then they didn't ever have to. But how do you deal with that imposter syndrome? And I know you got to get your kids so you can be as quickly as possible. And then I'm going to show your
you know what? I don't. They're going to be walking in at 3 though. So if they come in the background, that's fine. But I have the Annie now, so I don't have to do that myself, which is amazing. But yeah, so I don't know. Imposter syndrome is a funny thing because I don't know. I haven't really experienced it a lot myself. I feel kind of fortunate about that, or at least if it's out there, I haven't been made aware of it necessarily. I've had a very small number of times where somebody has pointed something out to me that's using my work or, copying my work in any way. So I don't know, maybe that tells me something about the quality of my work.
No. I guess I was meaning like feeling like a fraud. Like I have had tons of years of schooling and read tons of books, and I still feel like, oh crap, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. Well, and I think that a lot of that goes hand in hand with being self-taught in anything. How do you know that you're not doing it like a completely ass-backwards way that makes no sense and is taking you way more time than it should? A piece of work of mine was called out in a private Facebook group a week or two ago for using all these wrong methods of sign painting and stuff for a mural I was doing. And, I don't know. I'm not a sign painter. I don't, really aspire to be specifically. I got the job done and it was fine. And one of the things they said was like, don't spend 4 days doing a job that should take 4 hours. And for one, it didn't take that long. But for two, more importantly, if it did, it was because I, didn't have all the information, but I knew enough to make it happen and make it work. And it's still there. They haven't painted over it yet. So that's saying a little bit of something. And, it's hard to know, and it's hard to not feel like a fraud. And I think that there's a lot of being a creative person that has to do with, having a little self-doubt and having a little bit of uncertainty about whether you're doing the right thing or doing something really dumb. Or if anybody's going to like it or not. And, it's something that I think everybody deals with, and it's, not only natural, but helpful. I mean, I think a lot of that has been some of the things that motivated me to better myself, is because I wanted to make sure that I was doing the best I could and not, if I was doing something wrong, I was going to make damn sure that my wrong way was going to make it look good still. Right. So, it was just, it's something you got to just own and work with.
I have to think so I've always tied my shoes. Like if you watch me tie my shoes, I don't have shoes on that I tied today, but if you watch me tie my shoes, people are like, oh, how did you learn how to do that? I'm like, look, they stay tied all day, cause I do it differently than you. It's still, I'm pretty fast at it. It doesn't take me 30 minutes to tie my shoes in the morning, but the only time people see is when they see the process. By the finished product, they really can't tell. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's really, we got to the same results. I might not have, but see there again, it's kind of like what me and Brian were saying earlier, or what me and Brian were saying days ago. And then I brought up, was that you can know how to do certain things. Like, how to make a t-shirt for screen printing really well. And then you also are, maybe not an expert at sign painting, but you're not afraid to try it because it's still in your genre of hand lettering. Right. So I just think that I took a course, like a Ben Stafford course, like $20. You get to watch him and he talks to you, on Google Hangouts. And then you watch lynda.com with Von Klitschka, and they're pretty much teaching how to use textures. Both were teaching how to use totally different ways, but the results are the same. And it's like Von's way isn't better than Ben's way. It's just different. Sure. In some ways it's going to feel better. So I'm glad, hopefully you just, shrug that off, but there are always going to be haters.
I'm still talking about it, so apparently not.
But Ryan, you're amazing. And I think that's really ballsy that you were like, you know what? I'm just going to try it. Have you ever done this? Nope, but I'm going to try it. Like that Lululemon, the green, and wasn't it green and white? Like, that was amazing. Yeah. Like, it's still a beautiful.
That's the one.
Yeah, a beautiful, beautiful piece, and that somebody, wanted you to try that, and you hadn't done it, but you said, you know what? I know how to design this. I haven't ever painted this. And I think that's a sign of somebody who is a teachable spirit, that you're going to try it. You're going to maybe do a little research beforehand. But, it's like there's all those sticks and stuff, like the big ball on the end, like a whole bunch of stuff that you're like, I didn't even know I needed that. I mean, you probably had that.
Apparently, you're not supposed to use those when you're painting a wall. That was one of the criticisms. So,
hey.
But, But, and then there again, like I did do some research, and I I went to the art store and I found a good projector to put the design up on the wall to transfer it up there. And I had to look into, how much you could enlarge the thing with this particular projector over another, because they're all different. And I reached out to my network of lettering friends that I had built from Dribbble. It was actually Jed Palmer, is awesome, incredible lettering artist in the UK. I reached out to him and I was just like, hey, you've been doing a lot of sign painting stuff lately. What kind of stuff should I get? What do I need to know as far as materials go, and what kind of paint should I get and all this? And he was very helpful. We actually had a Skype call about it at that point, and just kind of chatted for a little bit about what I should be looking for and what I should try and find. And apparently I made the wrong decisions on what he told me to do that stuff. But, I got the answers to the questions I had, and I went out there and I gave it a shot. So, and it turned out fine. They were happy with it. They still paid me.
Yeah, so. and it's beautiful. And so Brian posted the image, the San Antonio Lululemon mural, and you weren't even living in Texas then, right?
Nice. I was, yeah. I was fairly new to Texas, a couple months, yeah.
So Joseph has one more question.
Yep.
Have either of you seen the Paula Scheer TED Talk about design, great design being serious, not solemn? She talks about taking on things you don't know how to do and expand yourself and not getting complacent in doing, the things you always do. I haven't seen it, but
I haven't either. But I think that goes right along with what we're saying here is, I tweeted something the other day, and I quoting myself from Twitter, but and I said the comfort zone is like a cancer. It's going to be the death of either you and your joy or your relevance, because if you stay in that zone for too long, the industry is going to move past you, and it's going to not be interested in that stupid thing that you decided to call a style after just being happy with it after a 100-day project of learning how to do lettering for 100 days. So, it's definitely something that you should take seriously. And, as far as what you should take seriously is your growth and your the time that you spend on, improving. On the other hand, on the other side of things, I think that, a lot of people take themselves a little too seriously, and that's, it's something that can also be something that hurts you. But I think as long as you're serious about growing and, putting some serious effort into, moving forward and progressing, then that's never gonna fail.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Ryan, thank you so much. I always just so enjoy, I could just keep talking to you, because you're just filled with a ton of information that really helps a lot of people with a lot. Yes, you are. And you're also, so it's like you have this beautiful talent, but you also have a great mind and a good way of looking at it as a business. And you've had a lot of success, and I definitely wish you more and more success. And next time,
thank you.
So, and a bunch of people are saying, great show. Definitely I'm going to get Ashley to try and schedule you in again. I know it's difficult more in the summer, maybe. But we get to 3 and maybe 4, but we kind of talked a little bit, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about Instagram and Twitter and how you use those networks and how you continue to use those. And then how they have gotten you to connect with some of these bigger, like Lululemon or Capital One. That was a great piece. The Capital One campaign that you did, that was terrific. I love that one.
It was fun.
And then just knowing what your strategy is, not that it may not be like, oh, I post Monday, I post Friday, I post whatever at 3:00, right. But that what has worked for you it's different in December than it is in August. And I do think stuff like that changes, but I think people just need a little help kind of getting started, or especially freelancers that are working full-time jobs and they're trying to do a side project, they have something neat and they want to get it out there and they just can't. So
yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I'm always happy to come in and talk It's always
Well,
fun.
I am always happy to have you. So on social media, you are at Hamrick, Hamric, and that's pretty much Instagram, Twitter, and your friend, you
Everything.
friended me on Facebook. So I mean, and you do write back. Like, you are such a nice.
I really try to. I always told myself, like, when I was kind of coming up and trying to talk to some people that wouldn't answer me, I was just like, man, that's bullshit. Who are you to not answer me? But there's a time when, you have enough stuff coming in that you miss things sometimes, and it's hard. And it's something that I understand a little bit more now. And if I have ever not answered something from anybody, please don't hold it against me and continue to reach out. I do well with harassment. If somebody harasses me, I'm very responsive. And sometimes that's exactly what I need. Ask some of my past clients. So, it's a real thing. It's tough, but yeah, I try to respond to just about anything.
So, and if you guys didn't catch the episode before, which it's on, if you look up rechargingyou.com and you just type in Ryan Hamrick in the search bar, you'll come up with both of these episodes. I'll put this one up tomorrow. So, and if you don't follow me, you can always get on the list so that you get the questions. I send the questions out at like 6 a.m. on Central Time on Tuesday morning, and you can get to it by going to bit.ly/dr for design recharge .list or -list, and that's the best way to get on. But you can always email me. I also sometimes have a hard time getting back to people quick, but Diane@designrecharge.org is the best way. Can I send you some of my homemade whiskey? Oh yeah, Peter Peter Belcar, I can't remember. It's BEL something. BACALLAO. And so, sorry, I totally butchered it, Peter. But at least I remember you were Peter.
Say close enough.
So, yeah. But you tried different kinds of whiskeys, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I may be technically sponsored by Jameson now, but I still drink other things. So I would love that. And I know that he's been following me for quite a while and always a pretty big supporter of my stuff. So I would absolutely love that.
So it's ryanhamrick.com is his, and you can, I think you have a form, a contact me form on that. Is that a good way to get in touch with you also?
Yeah, sure. Or just my email. Can I type in this chat? I think I can. I'll just put it in there. My email it's fun. It's hard to say, but that's my email. If anybody wants to just reach me directly. The form is more for inquiries and stuff. I mean, you're welcome to use it, but it's there for that. But you can just email me too.
Cool.
So
all right. So thank you again so much. And I am like blanking. Oh, Shane Helm next week. I'm so excited to have my friend Shane on. And he has started a community, Creative by Design. So if anybody's interested, definitely come next week. He's also an amazing web designer. He's done a ton of really amazing clients, worked for people all over the world. I think he has a client in Australia, like a big government client. So, but he's just like this one-man guy who does everything and so humble. So again, next week, Shane Helm, that'll be November. It's definitely not November. It's May 18th. So join me back this time, same time next week. And Ryan, thank you again so much for being here today. So
thank you.
Yeah. Bye, guys.